Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday morning to you. Hope you guys are doing well. It's region weather meteorologist Matt Wentz here. Sunday morning, kind of an odd time for us to join each other, right? We'll have another broadcast later tonight to kind of fine tune the latest and get those folks that perhaps can't make it here this morning. I just want to make sure we get the information out. And so, obviously, I mean, who's excited? Is anyone excited? Is anyone like not looking forward to this as we go throughout the overnight tomorrow morning? I know a lot of you folks have morning commutes tomorrow, and it's going to be a tough go in portions of Northwest Indiana. And you know how we like to do things here. I don't like to hype things up. I don't think this is going to be the biggest of lake effect events that we've had. This isn't going to be our blockbuster blizzard snowstorm. But the way lake effect goes, and I can't get this message across enough. I think most of you are smart enough and understand this, but maybe some people don't understand lake effect. Lake effect, you get this bullseye zone where you get a ton of snow and it's awful, and then you get right outside of that, miles outside of that, and there's virtually nothing. All right. And those people that are into nothing will say, you guys got it all wrong. You're crazy. We didn't get any snow. What are you talking about? Hype, 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 just trying to get the clicks. And that's not the case. The folks that are in it are going to say, you got it all wrong. You said some places wouldn't get it. So meteorologists just can't win in lake effect setups, but we've got a pretty good idea of how this is going to behave. All right. And we are going to have a period of time where we have some pretty intense snowfall rates coming through Northwest Indiana. We started to pick this up on our broadcast last week, right? With the wind direction, it's all about that fetch across the lake. And with that fetch coming across Lake Michigan, we've got the entire length of it, which tends to give us our most prolific lake effect events. Now, the one thing, we'll dive into the maps here in a second, but the one thing that on my mind is kind of going to limit snowfall totals. We're still going to get good snow, all right, where this lake effect goes. But the thing that's going to prevent it from getting out of control, I don't see the band of lake effect snow sitting up and setting up over the same area for a long time, all right? That's typically how we get our huge snows in LaPorte and Porter counties in the winter, is when we have a day and a half, 2 days straight of a lake effect band that just sits with the same wind coming across the lake. So this band is going to be moving. It's going to be waffling back and forth, all right? And again, we've got a good idea of what those movements look like, when and where, so to speak, because now we're within the time range. We don't have to get specific 10 days out, but now we can get specific. But again, it's going to be moving back and forth quite a bit. It's not going to sit over a particular period for, I would say, longer than 4 to 5 hours. It'll kind of be moving back and forth. Okay, so that's kind of the big picture view of everything. Let's get to, I'm going to throw some graphics on here. You can see your comments up on the screen there if you need them. A lot of people obviously happy about the snow. I see that. I know some people aren't so happy about it. That's just how it goes this time of year. As always, we want to thank our sponsors. We've got Earl's Heating and Air Conditioning, PSA, that's our publicserviceadjusting.com, Romans Roofing, we've got Halcyon Water Solutions, Minogue.life, Kate Cusack for Ruoff Mortgage, if you need a local lender for all your mortgage needs. We've got Tiger Plumbing as well, FBI Buildings, TNT Tree Service, Great Lakes Lighting, and Grieger's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. This is a bonus broadcast for them, but they do keep all this for free, which a lot of them have been sponsors for 2 to 3 years, so we certainly do appreciate them. And if you have a local business you're looking to sponsor as well, we'd love to work with you. Certainly, we have some active weather coming our way here over the course of the winter. All right, so let's dive into the forecast. Let me thank our early birds first. We always get on board. Bass Cat Joey, you were the first one on board. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining us this morning. Tyler saying looks like the big one. It certainly could be in spots, Tyler. This is going to be a good first early season snow. Good morning to you, George. Jeff was with us early. Terry, Rhonda, hello to you. Jennifer, thanks for joining us on our YouTube channel. And yes, family's doing well here this morning. We had a big birthday party last night for our second youngest now, I guess. We've got 5 kids, so you guys know that. We have a newborn who's now over a month old. But yeah, we had our 2-year-old had a birthday party yesterday, so we're wiped out. Normally we're going to church here this morning, but we're going to take a back seat because we just didn't get a break yesterday with all the family stuff. But anyway, so here we are. So you don't need the backstory. All right, here's what we're dealing with right now. So we have the system that went by, right? It's colder outside this morning. Temperatures are at or just above freezing. We've got a lot of 34, 35s showing up on the temperature map across the region. So we are colder. We brought in level 1 of cool air, right? The system that went by produced the rain and some slushy snow last night. That is now out towards Ohio. And we're on the backside of this whole thing. So you see that flow kind of coming out of the northeast right now. All right, cold air across our warm lake. What's that do? It produces lake effect this time of year. As long as you have moisture, and we have moisture because we've got the low just out towards our east. We've got this envelope of moisture all over Great Lakes, and we've got good lift. That lift is provided by warm lake water, warm water, rising air, right? And that air rises faster depending on how warm that water is. And it certainly is on the warmer side, especially, for winter standards. November tends to get us our best lake effect snow. And then we've got that fetch, all right? The fetch is everything. When I say fetch, it's wind direction. And the wind direction matters all across the length of Lake Michigan, all right? We've got good convergence as well. You can see that happening up in the northern tip here. See how we have like one band coming into another band? That's the convergence. So all the air converges in the middle of the lake, and then it goes down the length of the lake. That air rises because you've got that warm water, and then you get this band, and that's the band of snow we'll be watching. This is not the band of snow that's going to produce all the damage, though, okay? This will reorient itself later this afternoon in the evening hours. We'll get a real good push of snow that's probably going to produce whiteout conditions as it moves through for spots. I'll show you that here in a second as well. And then once that moves through, that will reorient the winds and really get that lake effect band going. And our temperature is going to drop as well. We need a little bit colder air to support some really good snow around here, and that air will get colder. So things still to come, and that's why we've got the winter storm warnings out for the entirety of Northwest Indiana in anticipation of that arriving later on today, more so tonight into that Monday morning commute. Okay, really good website for you guys. ODOT or NDOT has some great resources. You can click on the plow cams. So this is a look at their webpage. This is traffic-wise. And we could take a look at the cameras of where it is snowing. So it's snowing in areas of Porter County. You can see we still have quite a bit of foliage on the trees, and that may play a role with some of this heavier snow with some power outages. We mentioned that in the broadcast a couple days ago. But we have snowflakes flying. We have raindrops mixed in spots, especially close to Lake Michigan. But it's just kind of dreary outside, right? We don't have any big travel issues yet. We have wet pavement. There are flakes flying in there, and again, there's some rain mixing in. This isn't the big show by any means, all right? And I'm not expecting much. I mentioned this again in the broadcast a couple days ago, that I'm not expecting big impacts during the day on Sunday, all right? It's later on today, especially once that sun goes down, where we're going to start to dance around with some problems, especially tonight. Another cool resource on here, these are the little plows, all right? And you can see all the plow cams on here, which is just a wonderful resource. So if you're wondering, what it looks like in your neighborhood, whatever it happens to be, here's a live shot or kind of a snapshot of the plow cam. So make sure you visit your local NDOT webpage there. All right, closer look here. Our main band right now, which again isn't going to be our main band later, but this is pushing some of the snowflakes into areas of mainly Porter County. This will get into LaPorte County. There's a secondary band here, which is some lighter stuff that's going to push into Newton, Jasper, and Lake counties again. But everything kind of targeting us right now. What we are going to see throughout the day today is this, as that low pulls away. So picture with me for a second, that low pressure that's out towards Ohio, all right, this one right here, this one, see where this is? As that pulls away, that is going to pull this band with it out towards the east, okay? So LaPorte County, you're going to start to pick up some of these snowflakes and raindrop mix here this morning. It's going to be mainly snow here shortly, but we still have some rain, especially near the lakeshore. But LaPorte County, this is heading your way, and then Lake and Porter County, you'll get into this kind of secondary little area of moisture here. So it's not going to stop, but the portion of this line that you're getting is going to change. And that's with the pull of that low heading away, okay? So typically, if that was all we have, if we just had that low pressure that moved through and we had this lake effect, it would pull out towards the east, and it would be Porter and LaPorte County that get lake effect snow, and then we'd be done with it, all right? But there's a nuance in this, and you can kind of see it here. There's kind of a different view of the Great Lakes, all right? Here's Lake Michigan. Here's Northwest Indiana down here, okay? And then we're looking at Wisconsin. Here's the UP of Michigan. Right in here, it's very subtle, but right in here, there's kind of a secondary area of low pressure, a little mesolow that's starting to develop. And another thing on here, and I don't expect you to read all these. This is more for so you understand what's going on atmospherically, because I always like to help you understand that. You can see these temperatures. See these little red numbers? We're in the 30s here in terms of our temps, 30s across Michigan. But you get up into northern Wisconsin, right up in here, temperatures are in the low 20s. And I mean like 21, 22, 20, even teens up by Duluth. So that being said, this secondary little boundary that's swinging south, it's coming in like this. That's got a chunk of colder air with it, and it's that boundary or that little mesolow that'll develop that'll bring colder air later this afternoon and evening, and that's the one that gets that lake effect really going, all right? So that's kind of what you're seeing in the modeling. So let's go through some of the modeling. I'm going to show you the two that I agree with the most. There are multiple high-res models we look at, and again, this is why you didn't hear a snowfall forecast from us all week, all right? Because it's all global models, and they dance all over the spot or all over the place in terms of totals and all that stuff. But the high-res models give us a good look at kind of detailed information. And it doesn't mean they're right, but we look for consensus, and there's really good consensus with the modeling. So I can put out a snowfall forecast. I can agree with it now versus saying something, a week in advance like a lot of other people do that has the chance of being a bust, right? I don't want to be wrong in the forecast, all right? A lot of these other pages, they don't care. They don't care. There's no face behind it. So there's that. So here's what we've got. We've got our north wind. Here's our band. Watch how this shifts east throughout the day, all right? Heads out towards LaPorte County, then out towards South Bend, all right? We're left with kind of just some light stuff. Again, no huge impacts as we go throughout the afternoon. If you have plans to get some stuff done, run some errands, get some groceries for the week, you should be okay the rest of the morning, the midday into the early afternoon hours, all right? Once that sun gets ready to set, though, that's when we've got to start to keep an eye on things. Notice how we do get a little break, perhaps, says the HRRR, and I would agree with that as most of the energy shifts out towards the east. However, you see these lines on here. These lines are isobars. Most of you probably know that from being around me long enough. Those are lines of equal pressure. What's that mean? It tells you the wind, and it tells you the wind's direction, all right? And when there's a lot of impact together like this, it's windy, all right? You've got a big pressure difference between one point and the other, which is usually a high and a low. And so we know it's going to be windy, but we also look at direction, especially with lake effect forecasting. There are multiple levels of the atmosphere we look at to see what direction that band's coming in. But the one thing I want you to notice, see this little change here? This is that trough I was talking about coming in. Normally low would head by, all the snow would head east. But this trough is going to be the game changer. As this comes south, it's going to bring this band that's out towards the east for much of the midday and early afternoon. It's going to bring it screaming back into northwest Indiana later on this evening. And you can see it here. See how that trough makes its way in our direction? And what it will do, it'll almost serve as a mini cold front that'll hold back some of that colder Arctic air we're talking about. But it should form a decent squall line. And I've seen this enough times in my career where you get an Arctic front in the middle of January or February, and it brings that squall line where you get this sudden burst of snow everywhere, all right? It's like a line of thunderstorms that moves through. You get this burst of snow, whiteout conditions, strong winds possible as it moves through, and then it moves through, it kind of quiets down, but it's like 10 to 15 degrees colder, and then the lake effect starts. And that's how I'm expecting it to go down here. Again, later on this evening this is after sunset, all right, into the early morning hours tonight. And so look at this, that develops here. And I love, this is my favorite. The HRRR does such a good job picking up on this because this is kind of how I pictured it happening with this trough coming in. Because it happens all the time when you get a trough like this in very cold air for whatever season it is. So we may quiet down for a little bit this afternoon. And then once we get into this evening and tonight, timing on this could vary for an hour or two. But this is your main band that comes in and kind of kicks off that lake effect, all right? And this is with that little trough that swings south within this low. So heavy snow can be expected pouring off the lake. You'll get probably 30, 35, maybe 40 plus mile per hour winds briefly with this. And this will, because the sun will be setting, or will have set, this is going to put down the coating and it's going to get slick out there in a hurry. All right, this is the time you don't want to be out. If you are out, you can handle it because you know winter weather, but it's going to get real tricky in a hurry. And I expect that to happen sometime late this evening. As of right now, I'm thinking anytime after 9. All right. Keep an eye on it, though. And we'll have the forecast. We'll have a live broadcast tonight again coming up at 6 o'clock Central Time. All right. We'll be able to fine tune that even more. But that would move through. That would put down your coating to an inch. It would be windy, colder, and then things are going to get slick with that. Even treated roads would get slick because it'd come down pretty heavy. And then, more than likely, we would see a break after that moves through. The lake effect band starts to develop out over the lake. All right, so this is now pushing into tomorrow morning. I could foresee a scenario where we are not getting snow tomorrow morning, and we don't have much on the ground here locally, all right? We would have whatever this thing brings, but then we would have this band that develops out over the lake. And now we're talking very cold air with this, right? Air temps in the 20s to near 30. Air temps up above have really dropped, all right? So that's really going to create a much heavier band of lake effect snow than what we're seeing right now, all right? Right now is not a whole lot to write home about. And this band, as of right now, the HRRR and the NAM, which are two reliable models in the high-res world, they're targeting Chicago for this at first. So that would make us quiet tomorrow morning. And you'd say, where is our snow? Remember, it's lake effect. Someone's getting it. If you're not, then you're not. And that's kind of how it goes. This would probably be a 15, 20 mile wide band of snow. And then outside of that, there wouldn't be a whole lot going on. It'd just be really cold. All right. All indication is as we go throughout the morning, though, all right, this is morning rush hour. This is the tail half of the morning rush hour into your mid-morning that band would swing through northwest Indiana at some point. All right. I know it doesn't look like much, but that band within it is going to be producing 1 to 2, even 3 inch per hour snowfall rates. The potential's there for that. That is a huge deal. 3 inches of snow in an hour, that's about as heavy as it gets, okay? There will likely be some thunder snow with this as well, so lightning and thunder within the snow because it's so convectively developed, which is certainly possible this time of year. I mean, meteorologically, this could be a real decent band of snow. So the herd waffles it back through. Another trough is starting to show up in the modeling now that comes through kind of in the afternoon and evening. And notice how that kind of shuts things down for a bit. Just notice how there's no real organization where it's in the same area. All right, it's kind of doing this. And so if that secondary trough comes in, we would get another break tomorrow sometime in the afternoon before this other main band comes in and targets us. And then most of it's out of here as we wait kind of another system to come in and you see the wind flow changes, all right? So we've got a couple periods of time here. One later this evening into tonight that's going to come through. We'll see where this sets up, all right? If this sets up over us, it's game over, all right? We would have over a foot of snow. But all indication is right now that it would set up just west of us before coming back into the region tonight into tomorrow, and then we get perhaps a final wave later on tomorrow, all right? We've got more models to look at. So let's look at the NAM Nest, which is another fairly reliable model with snowfall. This one keeps the snow going east throughout the day. But the NAM Nest brings this boundary in here a little quicker, and that's why I say we got to be careful with that time frame. I'm looking at 9 or later, but again, could be slightly earlier with that. But it too, and I agree with this, brings this band of super heavy snow in here with that wind shift and with that trough, all right? This would produce whiteout conditions, and you'd have very, very strong wind gusts within that, like a line of thunderstorms. Once that goes through, NAM Nest kind of does the same thing and sets it up over the Chicago area. Whiting out towards Hammond, you may be in that initial band. This is tomorrow morning, all right? Here's the morning. Notice who's not getting snow. Porter and LaPorte County. No snow falling during that morning rush hour, says the modeling, and I could see that. It's going to be within the band, and that's it, all right? I want to make sure we hear that messaging in terms of that. And then watch how throughout the day, it too brings that band through. So a couple hour periods of some heavier snow. That works east, and then it kind of reorients everything out towards the east, okay, before our next system moves in, all right? How much are we talking about? Well, we'll look at the modeling for this, and I'll give you my general idea of what we're thinking. Notice how we go from not a lot. This is kind of the slush from today onto this evening. And then notice how fast with that initial band that moves through this evening. I mean, it's putting down 3 inches of snow with that. And then there's your lake effect on top of that. I like this one the best. I'll show you the NAM Nest in a second. But notice how it's kind of streaky. But overall, we're dealing with anywhere from 6 to about 11 inches here in northwest Indiana. And that would be pretty widespread as well because that band isn't going to sit over an area. It's going to kind of share its snow totals for a while. All right, NAM Nest is a little bit lighter on that. Notice how it's got that main band pushing through with a couple inches of snow. And then on top of that, we'd get another 3 to 6 in lake effect, depending on where that band goes, which would put us in the 5 to 10 inch range, perhaps a little bit more if things go well. So in terms of our forecast here at Region Weather, I agree with that. I think Lake, Porter, and LaPorte counties, we can plan for anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of snow. I say 5 in case that band doesn't move through or moves through a little bit more progressively. In areas down to the south, like Newton and Jasper County, I would say 2 to 6 ought to do it. Northern half of the county is going to get more. But all of us will get that snow this evening. I want that to be kind of clear as well, that all of us are going to get snow this evening as that kind of front goes through, all right? It's going to turn snowy everywhere. But once that pushes through, some of us are going to quiet down for a while, and then others will watch where that lake effect develops, more primarily back towards Chicago before it swings in, okay? So that's what we're looking at snowfall-wise. And I say this every winter, and again, a lot of you say the same things because you've heard me long enough. We get so fixed on snow totals, and we get so fixed on the last number in it, right? So if I say 5 to 10, everyone assumes they're going to get 10, all right? Assume you're going to get 5 just as equally, right? It's in that range, and I don't see that range, and meteorologists don't use that range to be lazy. That is going to be the range, right? Snow does not fall evenly. You're going to have a town down the street that gets 5. You may end up with 8. Down the street, you get 10, all right? That's how it goes. So we try to estimate the range. But on top of that, think about the impacts. It's not necessarily the number you get, it's the impact, all right? So let's transition to impact talk, okay? Tomorrow morning, rush hour, we may have a coating on the ground. If you are an early riser like me, I do the morning show, so I'm out the door at 3 a.m. If you have to hit the streets 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, that's going to be your tricky time from that initial burst that goes by this evening. All right, if INDOT and local municipalities don't, get to all the roads, they don't salt, whatever happens to be, you're going to have some tricky travel late this evening into the early half of tonight, and then those early risers, those third shifters. All right, that's going to be pretty tricky. Tomorrow morning is highly dependent on where that band is. All right, if you've got travel plans from Northwest Indiana into Chicago on business tomorrow morning, you're going to be impacted by that band. That band is going to be somewhere between Lake County and Cook County, and even Lake County in Illinois. All right, that's where that band is expected to be. We have a better chance of having a not so bad rush hour tomorrow morning in Porter and LaPorte counties, all right, because that real mega band of snow is going to be out towards the west as it looks right now, all right. So keep that in mind. I don't think it's going to be impossible to travel in Porter and LaPorte counties tomorrow morning. Stark County, you too. Lake County, we're going to be right on the line of that. Even northern Newton and Jasper County, we'll have to keep an eye on where that line is. But if you have travel plans from here to Chicago tomorrow morning, that is going to be tricky, okay? So keep that in mind. And again, we're talking impacts. That's what matters. How are you going to be impacted by this? Does it matter if you have 4 or 2 inches? It doesn't. If it falls at the wrong time, you've got problems. And then during the morning hours tomorrow, like once you're at work, all right, that band is going to start to shift back towards the east. And so while you're at work, perhaps at the office in Lake, Porter counties, northern Newton, Jasper counties, we're likely to see that snow shift back. And it should come down heavy enough for a brief time that it would coat roadways and it would get slick. So if you have midday plans tomorrow, maybe you're heading out for errands, you want to do lunch out, you're wondering if should I go to work tomorrow, I think you'll be able to handle it. I really do. But it is going to get a little snowier during the day tomorrow. And then tomorrow evening, still kind of up in the air in terms of how that goes, in terms of that secondary band coming in. But tomorrow evening could get tricky as well. The last thing that I want to let you know, I've got a couple more maps to show you guys. So thank you for hanging tough, those of you that have. I know I get long-winded, but I hope you find everything helpful when I'm saying. Again, I'm not like, hey, look at me, I'm a meteorologist. Hey, here's how you're going to be impacted. That's what I want the focus to be. But the other thing I want to say is that this time of year and any time of year, our sun angle's getting lower, right? We're November, so we don't have a very strong sun. November, December, January, lowest sun angles, right? As we head towards the winter solstice. But this time of year and every time of year, the nighttime versus daytime really matters. So we can get some melting of the snow during the day through solar radiation. So it can still be cloudy, but it does help to warm up surfaces like pavement, especially blacktops and asphalt, all right? Anything black holds that heat, the albedo effect, remember? And so daytime versus nighttime makes a big difference. When we get snow, once the sun goes down, a lot of that sticks if it's not treated because we don't have the solar radiation coming through. So tonight, until that sun comes up tomorrow for a few hours after that, anything that does fall could get tricky on the roads. And same thing for tomorrow night into Tuesday, whatever's left over, all right? So I just kind of want to get that out there as well. Those are just some winter things that we can take with us the rest of the winter. All right, so that's our snowfall, kind of our look at our snowfall totals. On top of that, some of you have asked me, I've gotten some private messages about what kind of snow are we expecting. This is going to be a heavy, wet snow. The snowfall type is very dependent on temperatures, all right? And our temperatures are going to be right near freezing, then it'll drop back down through the 20s. So it will get a little bit fluffier as we go throughout the event. So tomorrow's snow on into tomorrow night, whatever's left over, that's going to be a little bit fluffier than not, all right? But initially, this is going to be a wet snow for most of the duration of this. The other thing is we're going to have gusty winds on top of this, and you can see the modeling picking up on some of these gusts. See these little kind of peak gusts that form in some of these squalls, all right? And the first one that I notice is tonight, that again, that line of heavy snow that I'm expecting to work through, that's going to have some gusts with it. And I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, could go over 40 at times. So late this evening into tonight, that initial band is going to get tricky. And we'll be tracking it for you, okay? So it's not going to be a surprise. Just make sure you stay tuned. And then you notice how with each little subsequent squall, you can get winds that go 30, 40, kind of like you would in thunderstorms. So wind will be an issue as well. And then temperatures, you see them throughout the day, holding right near the freezing mark. It's not until this evening, once that line goes through, that we drop back down to the 20s. This is when your snow becomes a little fluffier, all right? The ratio will change as well, so it can pile up a little bit more. And then tomorrow morning, just bone-chilling cold, will be in the low to mid-20s for air temperatures. It'll feel like the teens, maybe even upper single digits at times when that wind blows. So not unheard of for November, but certainly unheard of compared to where we've been the last couple months, right? This will be a shock in terms of what it feels like. It always is. We're creatures of comfort. We would get used to it if it was January, but this is the first hit. And then tomorrow during the day, not a lot of melting. We'll only be up near the freezing mark for a high. The other thing I've heard a lot of is about the ground temps being so warm. And yes, so ground temps are warm right now, all right? But I'm not too worried about ground temps. I'm really not. And I'm seeing even a lot of meteorologists are worried about these ground temps saying, oh, a lot of it's going to melt when it hits for a while, blah, blah, blah. Once that snow comes down heavy enough, it takes that ground temp that could be 38, 39 degrees. And once that snow accumulates, it brings it down to the freezing mark pretty quickly, right? You get that melting layer that forms into ice, and then everything kind of piles up on top of that. So I'm not too concerned about ground temperatures preventing us from getting a lot of snow with this, all right? If it's coming down heavy, it doesn't matter what the ground temp is, all right? That ground temp will come down. Now, road temps will take a little bit longer than that. That's why today we're just expecting slush at best. Once that sun goes down, though, that road temp will start to come down. Salt should work during this event, but salt will not work in that band that's putting down 2 to 3 inches of snow. You just can't keep up with that. There's nothing NDOT can do to keep up with 2 to 3 inches an hour in terms of snowfall. It's just impossible. What I want to show you here is kind of long term, and we'll discuss this tonight a little bit in detail. But notice as we go through time, this is Tuesday into Wednesday. See this big ridge? Can you kind of see that ridge with some of these reds? That ridge is going to work in here. We'll say goodbye to the trough out east, and then we get this nice ridge eastern half of the country. So look at this. These are your not forecasted highs, but these are some of the highs being put out by the model and output. And yeah, we've got a couple cold days here, by early November standards. But then, I mean, how does 65 sound a week from today, right? I don't know if we'll get that warm, but there certainly is a chance out ahead of this next trough. And then we would turn active as it looks right now for Thanksgiving week, which is very typical. Typically, we get a couple big storm systems across the country just in time for that hot travel Wednesday. All right. So that's kind of what we're looking at in the long term. And we'll discuss that more as we always do on Sunday evening. We do our region weather lives where we look at the next 15 days or so. All right. So go ahead and if you guys have any questions, go ahead, throw them in. Other than that, I would love to just get you on your way here on this Sunday. I hope you have a good day. It's a good chilly, good crock pot kind of day, right? We've had 2 weeks in a row of that on a Sunday. So hopefully you guys can just kind of relax and sit back and enjoy the snow once it starts here. But again, this kind of sloppy today, just kind of dreary. We've got the snow mixing with some rain right now. It should be all snowflakes soon, but I'm not expecting a lot in terms of accumulation. We may get a little slushy coating to an inch or so if this band continues to hit areas of Porter and LaPorte County, but I don't see any travel impacts from that. Again, our ground and road temps are warm right now, and the rate is not high enough to overcome that. But once that sun gets ready to go down, 4 o'clock or so, that's when anything can start to stick, and then we'll keep our eye on that main band, which I'm expected to develop once that wind shifts out over the lake, and that will be a real decent hit that comes in here later on. Donna, yes, you're going to have to dig out the winter coat. It's on our agenda too. I've told you how many kids we have. We don't have any of the winter stuff out yet. So after this broadcast, I'm digging in the bins back there. We're going to get it out, get it organized. So that's that. Andrew says it's rain and Dippin' Dots in Westville. So a little grapple perhaps mixing in, Andrew. Yeah, it's just going to be kind of sloppy for a little bit here. Yes, Chris, good point on that. Bridge decks do freeze quickly. Reason why, you've got your ground, which is insulated by dirt underneath, but then you've got the bridge, which has air underneath, obviously. And if the air temperature above and below that bridge fall below freezing, not only does it take that bridge surface like this and cool it down from the top, but it also cools it down from the bottom. So yes, that's why bridges freeze first in terms of some of that ice. And just take it easy. If you're out on the roads, I mean, it's been a while since we've had winter weather driving, all right? And you may feel like you still got it, but just remember, you want to, what's the saying? You want to pretend that your grandma's in the back seat with like a pie or something like that, or a crock pot full of chili, and you want to like do your brakes slow. I mean, yeah, I don't know what helps. Leanna, let's see. Oh, that's so sweet. That's awesome. Happy to be your weather guy for sure. Yeah, so Kathy, that's where it gets a little interesting. Yeah, so that band is going to be, I'm expecting that band of snow, the one with the intense snow, to be somewhere between Chesterton, more specifically somewhere between like Portage and Chicago tomorrow morning. All right, so you're going to have to drive through that band at some point. And I don't know what kind of winter weather driver you are. I don't know what the traffic's going to look like at that hour, but I just know meteorologically we're going to have some kind of band of heavier snow likely. Doesn't mean it's for sure, right? It's lake effect. It could do its own thing. but I'm expecting some kind of band of snow to be between here and Chicago tomorrow morning, and that's going to get real tricky in that band. You're going to go from it's not so bad to, whoa, where'd this come from? All right. So just be careful tomorrow morning. I know surgeries, I mean, it probably needs to be done, but more importantly, they're tough to schedule right out in advance. You don't want to wait another 2-3 months. So just be careful, but you are probably going to drive through a band of snow. The good news is you're probably not going to be the only person driving tomorrow morning, all right? So just take it slow, allow some extra time. There will likely be snow between you and Chicago, though. That's where that main band would be. Maxwell, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So let's good call. So it varies in terms of where you are here in the region. I mean, everyone's going to get a different snow accumulation, but in terms of Monday itself, I expect that band to go through tonight with that real heavy snow. All right, could have some thunder with it. We'll have strong winds. It's like a thunderstorm line. Once that moves through, we'll quiet down, and then tomorrow I do see probably another 3 to 6, depending on where that band sets up. It looks to start in Chicago tomorrow morning, and then it would slowly move through the region throughout the day before heading out towards the east. If it moves through pretty quickly, it'd be in the 3 to 6 inch range. If it decides to move through and sit for a while, we could get higher totals than that, but I don't want to get out of control with totals. I think a good 3 to 6. Impacts will be felt wherever that lake effect band is tomorrow. Outside of that, there's not going to be a ton of action. There'll likely be some snow showers, but not a ton of action for some of you tomorrow, okay? That's okay. So, Melissa, we're looking at anytime late this evening. I'm thinking anytime after 9, all right? I may have to bump that up. So we've got another broadcast scheduled for 6 p.m. this evening. It's our typical one we do every week on Sunday evenings. And so we'll be able to give you a fine-tuned line. We may even see it out over the lake coming in at that time, so I can really time it out for you. But once that sun goes down, that's where we're really going to keep an eye on the radar this evening. Could get kind of slick in a hurry. And then that band's going to hit pretty good. JT, yeah, don't worry about it, buddy. Take the plows off. Yeah, all winter you'll be fine. So Kathy, that thunder snow, that's a good question. That thunder snow is going to take place in that main band, all right, in the most organized snow squalls, all right, wherever those are, especially this time of year, you can get some thunder and lightning, all right. And so as a result, wherever that band is, we could have thunder snow. I think we'll have thunder snow tonight as that initial hit comes in, right? But once that's through, it would be wherever that band of snow develops, that big band that goes up the lake. And we could have thunder snow tonight, tomorrow, through tomorrow evening, inside that band. It'd be where that main band is, because it'll be well organized. So there's that. At least I'm hoping for you on that. Cancellations probably wouldn't. Well, I don't know. It depends on how it goes in the morning. That's for sure. But we'll see. All right. I think that's it. Guys, thank you for taking time to join me. Again, we'll have another update as we go into the evening hours tonight, 6 p.m. Central Time for our Region Weather Live. We'll have some new data then we'll be able to share with you. We can get even more in the details on timing and talk about kind of what's transpired and what's to come. And we'll go a little bit more long-term as well. We'll talk about some of that warmth coming our way and how long it lasts, okay? You guys, enjoy your Sunday. We'll talk to you soon. All right. No problem. Bye.